Storytelling is in our bones, it's in our culture. We are natural storytellers. Our traditions are thousands of years old. It's not this hugely radical thing to want to be an artist. I think it is like a birthright in a sense.
Hi everyone, it's Mihiri here. Just like many of you out there, I am a huge fan of the HBO series White Lotus, so I was so excited to find out that there's going to be a Sri Lankan playing a role in the show. Today, we're sitting down with Shalini Peiris to find out all about her journey on White Lotus. Shalini, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. I know you're super busy. So let's just jump right in. How did you land this role on White Lotus?
It was actually a surprisingly uncomplicated process. I think Mike, he knows exactly what he wants and he knows who he wants. There was like interest expressed quite early, and then there was about 3+ weeks of not hearing anything, and I was like, shit. And then I got the call, and that was just like, I was on a plane. I just landed, and then I saw this missed call from my amazing manager Tom Jago at Insight, and I assumed he was calling to tell me it hadn't gone my way. So I was like, "Hey, Tom," and and then he was like, "Good news," and I was just like in the middle of this just crowded plane, and was just like, it was amazing. I'll never forget that moment.
That's awesome. Were you able to tell anybody, like your family or anybody, or did you have to kind of keep it hush hush for a bit?
I immediately went and told my partner, and he was more excited than I was. And then I told my parents and my, like immediate family when you're Asian is
right.
A lot of people. But no, I told my parents and my brother. My parents hadn't seen the show before. Okay. Molly, of course, knew the show.
Speaking of your family and your parents, I would say I think it's a little different now, but when I was growing up, doing something that's like outside of like medical school or like law school is very uncommon for Sri Lankan women, South Asians. What has your journey been with that? Like, has your parents and family been supportive? What was it like for you?
So I don't think it came as a surprise to anyone. Everyone calls me a born drama queen, and I was performing in some capacity since I was a kid. But then I actually chickened out of going to drama school after high school. It was a different industry at that time, and there wasn't a whole lot of us out there doing this that I thought it would actually be a viable career for me. Okay. So then I went into, I did anthropology, and then I was working in the human rights field for a while, but this never quite left. Okay. So then I told my parents, if I don't at least try, I'm never going to be fully satisfied no matter what I do. And again, this didn't come as a surprise to them. I think they were more scared than anything because it was something so unfamiliar to them. And I think for them, you could not ask for a more unstable, insecure career path. So I think for them as well, they were kind of like, we don't know how to protect you in this, but they kind of threw their full support behind me. And then I think once they saw me doing it, doing thing and somehow surviving, they've been amazing. But it's been interesting. I think not so much from my family, but the outside voice,
uncles,
aunties and uncles. Yeah, I've had some interesting things said to me over the years of kind of like ayo aparate, that she's chosen this, and and there's her father's a doctor. I had one auntie once told me that it wasn't a suitable career for a wife, that, some families might not like, uh, you
Wow.
know, a woman who's an actress because it's seen as a loose profession.
Wow. Wow.
So, yeah. And I was just like, wow. Anyone who thinks like that, I wouldn't want anyone near anywhere near me anyway. But yeah, I've had some
Uh,
interesting things said.
is there anything you could tell us about your experience on set and meeting the other cast members?
I mean, I think you're kind of forever bonded by the fact that you're never going to live through anything like that again.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, because we were actually living the White Lotus experience even while filming the White Lotus, and just kind of all coming to it already as huge fans of the show. I would have loved to have seen what it was like season one, when everyone was kind of coming together, not quite knowing what this thing was. And obviously that was filmed during COVID, and then, and then obviously season two just swept.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like a clean sweep at all the award ceremonies. So now season three, the standard is very much set.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but it was just, I mean, everybody was so incredibly humble and genuine, and we were all just wanting to do the absolute best that we could do to serve this incredible story. And everyone was just so lovely. I'm kind of the most excited to see it as a fan first still. And then I have a moment a few seconds later where I'm like, oh yeah, and I'm in this one. Oh yeah, we did that. It was very surreal.
My gosh. And you guys filmed in Thailand, right?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How long
Yeah.
were you in Thailand for?
So I think it was like a 5, 6 month shoot. And then, I mean, obviously our incredible crew were there from beginning to end, and the creative team. And then in terms of cast, I was kind of doing a bit more of kind of flying back and forth, and some cast were also there for the entirety of that time.
Wow. Do you have any memorable stories from being over there?
I mean, there were many memorable moments, but that was after quite an intense week of filming for me. That weekend, we did a boat trip, and it was just a lovely mix of kind of crew and cast and production. And it was just a whole day on the water. We rented this boat, and just explored. And it was just so, like snorkeling. We visited Pani floating village, and had one of the most amazing meals of my life. I mean, that was just incredible food. And then also just taking in the bioluminescence at night. And then there was this, oh my gosh, it was incredible. It was this mangrove forest
Wow.
that when the tide goes out, you can actually kind of crawl in. It's a cave, but you can walk into it, and then you're in this mangrove forest that you can now completely stand
Oh my God.
and just take it all in. But then fast forward like 5 hours later, the tide's back in, and then it's completely submerged in water. It was unreal.
Wow.
That was, I think, Hong Islands and then Phang Na. I mean, Thailand is an incredible place. I always knew it, but to kind of be there, to have so much time there, I felt very close to Sri Lanka as well. Um, yeah, I mean, many, many moments of just kind of like, is this my life?
Yes, like
Yeah.
this is unreal.
Yeah, unreal completely.
Is there anything you could tell us about your characters specifically? Or is that
I think that's under
your wraps?
wrap.
Okay, no,
Yeah, yeah.
let's find out. Is there any like while you were filming, is there any parts that you found challenging?
I can only imagine for um, those of the cast and crew who were there the entire time. But obviously, you do really miss home. So, I know a lot of people kind of struggled with homesickness and, had people visiting at different times as much as they could. But yeah, it is a kind of like the living out of a suitcase lifestyle, which is a huge part of what we do. Um, and I've done it quite a bit now as well. I've been doing this for 15 years. So it's extremely exciting and it's such a privilege. And um, before White Lotus, I had wrapped on season 2 of the ARC, and that was our second time in Serbia, and I absolutely love Serbia. And, that also was a good couple of months
Right, right.
living in Belgrade. I've missed friends' weddings,
Right, right.
um, birthdays, birthday parties. When you're away for that long, you inevitably miss a lot of life, and then the catch-ups you have with people when you get back are so huge because you're catching up on like
Month.
5, 6 months,
Right.
just like tell me about life, Yeah.
What would you say is your experience as a South Asian woman, as a Sri Lankan woman? Um, we don't really get to see people who look like us represented as much, even though it is changing now. Um, what has your experience been like in the industry?
It's changed
Yeah.
for sure, which is great. I mean, it's a very different industry to the one that I started out in 15 years ago. Still a very long way to go. It's very exciting to see the likes of, Mindy Kaling and the Hassan Minhajes and, I mean, the Ali Wongs. We didn't have those kind of people to look up to when I started, and they've probably been in the business for just as long, if not longer than me. Yeah, I mean, of course, and you look at like Michelle Yeoh, who I kind of grew up watching, growing up in Hong Kong, especially, and she was on our screens and, always knew how incredibly badass this woman was. But, I mean, seeing her finally get her dues now, and she's been in the business 40 years. Um, and you can see how huge that moment was
Right.
for her. I think there was an interesting roundtable discussion, the Hollywood Reporter Actors Roundtable. And she was just saying, I look at you all with so much envy because, the roles that you get to play, the kind of that whole delicious range of roles that you all get to play, we get that just like once,
Yep.
once every couple of years. Um, so I think we're still very much dealing with those kind of numbers,
Right.
uh, where you kind of have to be twice as good at all times. And you never know quite what the conversation is behind closed doors, whether, they when they say that, equal opportunities casting, how equal is that? Like, are we actually legitimately being considered as leading lady and leading man?
It's unbelievable that there's a Sri Lankan on this like huge show. So um,
Yeah.
you're making us all proud.
That's a huge driver for me. Like, also, especially receiving messages from people in Sri Lanka, artists and kind of aspiring artists. I think I had somebody message me and say, "You're living my dream," and kind of like we're all behind you. But that's such a powerful thing to say, and I think that is an added part of our experience. I was chatting with Natasha Rothwell about this as well, who's in White Lotus, and I think that is kind of a part of the burden that we bear is that you then feel like you have to represent at all times. So it's never then just ever fully about you. Because you're kind of representing for your people and for everyone who looks like you.
So, just before we wrap up, if you had any advice to give to aspiring actors that are South Asian or Sri Lankan, especially young women, and not just actors, I guess anyone who's in like a creative field that's a little bit away from the norms of what we're taught to pursue, what advice would you give to them?
Um, do it. Do it. And I think this isn't as far away as you think this is. Storytelling is in our bones, it's in our culture. We are natural storytellers. If you look at our traditional dance and drama, our traditions are thousands of years old. So it's not, it's not this hugely radical thing to want to be an artist. I feel like it is, I think it is like a birthright in a sense. Um, and so there's just so many incredibly talented creatives here in Sri Lanka, and that is something I would hugely want to be a part of, kind of building up the industry here, which is it's sadly under resourced, but the talent and the passion is very much here. But yeah, I would just say kind of dare to dream and please don't ever feel like this dream is not yours. It absolutely is. And let the auntie's always gonna have something to say no matter what you do. So you might as well do what makes you happy.
Give them
You know?
something to talk about, right?
Yeah, give them something to talk about. And the other thing I would say to just to anyone, make sure you're doing this for the right reasons. I think sometimes um, people have messaged me saying, they really, really want to be an actor. And it kind of feels like it's more because they want to be famous, and they want that Hollywood life. I also just want to be realistic about how hard this is, which I think a lot of people don't see. I've been in this business 15 years. Um, and it's, now that I'm in this incredible show, more lately am I actually being seen as somewhat of a success, but then I'm nowhere near, there's a whole other league of actors that I'm nowhere near, but there have been many, many years of working five part-time jobs and five part-time jobs at the same time, going 10, 11 months without work. And so, if you're doing this, make sure you're doing this because this is genuinely what you really love to do. Because otherwise it's just too painful. And it will not be worth it. If you're doing this because you want to be famous, and you want a huge social media following and you want the endorsements and you want that Hollywood life, there are way less painful, easier ways to do that.
Right.
So I want to make sure as well that, do what you love to do.
That's wonderful. If you want to do a quick plug for the show, tell us when it's coming out and where we can watch it and all of that.
So season 3 of The White Lotus is coming at you 16th of February, HBO, and I believe it's Stream on Max as well. And just buckle up is all I can say.